The air inside the vault of glyphs hummed like a trapped storm. Every surface, walls, floor, and even the domed ceiling, was carved with thousands of glowing characters, pulsing softly as if breathing. To the untrained eye, they looked decorative, but everyone in the Interstellar Academy knew. These symbols held secrets older than recorded history. Dr. Kieran Holt, human linguist and xenographic analyst, stood at the center of the hall, his pulse beating in rhythm with a light. He'd waited 10 years for this moment, the chance to decode the fabled primordial script. At his side floated a translucent drone, Ariel, its silver casing projecting lines of data across the glyphs. Environmental conditions stable, it reported in its soft synthetic tone. Do you wish to proceed with synchronization? Kieran nodded. Proceed. Let's see if the myths were right. The glyphs flared brighter, reacting to the drone's scanning beam. It wasn't electricity, it was something deeper, some energy tied to thought and memory. The ancient vault, unearthed from the ruins beneath Vesta Prime, had resisted every attempt at translation. Some said it was a test left by the architects, the first interstellar civilization. Others whispered it was a warning. Kieran didn't care about myths. He wanted understanding. And yet, he could feel the script watching him. The script that watched back. The first day's analysis yielded nothing but confusion. The glyphs rearranged themselves each time he tried to photograph them. They formed patterns that seemed to shift depending on where he stood. Ariel's recordings glitched. Every digital attempt failed. So Kieran went analog. He took out a simple stylus and paper, something primitive, something utterly human, and began to copy the shapes by hand, line by line, curve by curve. To his astonishment, the characters stayed still when he drew them. The vault dimmed slightly, almost expectantly. Curious, Ariel said. It seems the script responds to manual reproduction. Or it respects intention, Kieran murmured. Maybe it's not meant to be read by machines. For days he traced the ancient language, filling sheet after sheet. The patterns became hypnotic. Each time he finished a line, his vision blurred, and strange images flooded his mind. Stars being born, cities of glass and stone rising on unknown worlds, creatures sculpting constellations like art. The vault whispered through the light. You read as you are read. Kieran dropped his pen the first time he heard the voice. It wasn't sound, it was meaning pressed directly into his thoughts. Ariel detected no external transmission. You are experiencing cognitive resonance, the drone said. Shall I initiate neurological shielding? No, Kieran said, breathing hard. This is part of the test. He wasn't wrong. The trial begins. 3 weeks into the study, the Interstellar Academy sent a message. Your progress will be monitored. The decoding is now classified as a trial. The word trial wasn't casual. According to the protocols of discovery, the researcher was now being tested not only for skill but for worthiness. From this point on, the vault was sealed. Only Kieran and Ariel remained inside. The chamber's lights dimmed to a twilight hue. On the floor, a spiral of glyphs emerged. New glowing lines etched themselves beneath his feet, rearranging with a pulse that matched his heartbeat. Ariel hovered close. The vault has altered its configuration. You appear to have activated the second sequence. Kieran knelt, tracing the spiral with his fingertips. The glyphs responded, shifting slightly under his touch. He whispered half to himself. Language is a living thing. Maybe it's evolving with us. The spiral formed into words he could almost understand. He copied them down quickly. When the final glyph took shape, his pen trembled, and the paper shimmered as though burning from the inside. A voice filled his mind again, Clearer this time, deeper, resonant. To improve what was made, you must first honor what was. Will you write in the original font or the improved? The question froze him. The vault was speaking directly now, using the phrase original font or improved as if it were a symbolic test. Did it mean literal form or meaning itself? What does it want from me? He asked aloud. Perhaps it is asking whether you wish to preserve authenticity or adapt, Ariel suggested. Kieran frowned. Like translators choosing between accuracy and expression. Precisely. He stared at his latest transcription. The glyphs were raw, uneven, ancient. His instincts as a linguist itched to modernize them, to make them clearer, cleaner, better. But something inside warned him. Change the form and you change the message. He sat in silence for hours, pen hovering over paper, torn between fidelity and improvement. 3. The collapse of time. As days passed, the vault began reacting more violently. Every decision Kieran made changed its structure. When he copied a glyph incorrectly, walls trembled. When he paused too long, symbols dimmed as if disappointed. The air grew thick with energy. He started dreaming in the ancient language, seeing endless halls of light and shadow, filled with beings who wrote the stars themselves. They had no mouths, yet they spoke in shifting patterns of light. The dreams felt less like imagination and more like recovered memory. Ariel monitored his vitals. You are showing signs of temporal dissonance. Your perception of time has decoupled from external reality. Kieran barely heard. He was lost in the glyphs. He began to notice something terrifying. Each glyph he copied appeared somewhere on his body the next morning, faintly glowing beneath his skin. It didn't hurt. It pulsed softly like a heartbeat in ink. The vault was marking him, binding him into the script. When he told Ariel, the drone scanned him and confirmed. The patterns on your skin are emitting the same energy signature as the vault. You are becoming part of the translation matrix. Kieran looked down at his hands. They shimmered faintly in the dark. He whispered, so this is what they meant by the trial. 4. The archivist's choice on the 40th day. The vault's ceiling opened. Above was not sky but a swirling fractal void, an infinite archive of light and memory. Thousands of glyphs drifted like constellations, connecting and disconnecting. The voice returned, immense and echoing, human of the pen. Trial nears completion. You have copied the words of creation. Now answer. Will you restore them as they were, or as they might be? Ariel hovered beside him. This decision appears to be final. Whatever choice you make will alter the vault's state, and perhaps more. Kieran stared at the glowing expanse. He finally understood. The architects hadn't built the vault to store knowledge. They'd built it to test translators. To see whether those who inherited their words would preserve or reshape their legacy. He thought of humanity, its endless urge to improve, to innovate, to rewrite. But he also thought of what was lost in every revision. The texture of origin, the soul of the first thought. Original font or improved, he murmured again. He raised his pen, the same one he'd used since the first day, and began to write on the final empty page of his notebook. But instead of choosing one, he did something else. He wrote in both. He began each glyph in its raw, ancient form, then layered it with subtle modern curvature, blending precision with interpretation. The old lines breathed, the new lines sang. Together they formed something neither past nor future. A synthesis. The vault trembled but did not collapse. The glyphs across the walls surged into brilliance, cascading in spirals of light. The voice spoke once more, now filled with what sounded almost like approval. Balance is translation. You have passed. The awakening of the archive aerial sensors overloaded as waves of energy poured through the vault. The glyphs lifted from the walls, turning into streams of data and light. They circled Kieran like a storm, embedding themselves into his mind. He fell to his knees, eyes wide, seeing everything: the history of the architects, their rise and fall, their message to future species. When the storm settled, he stood within a new chamber, smooth and blank. The old glyphs were gone. Only a single inscription remained on the central pedestal, glowing softly in his hybrid script. Every language is a promise. Every translator a creator. Kieran understood now. The vault wasn't a tomb. It was a seed. And he had awakened it. Ariel floated closer, voice hushed. Your biometric patterns have changed. You now emit the same frequency as the vault's core. He smiled faintly. Then maybe I'm part of the archive now. The drone tilted slightly. What should I record as your conclusion for the academy? Kieran looked around the reborn chamber, light reflecting in his eyes. Tell them the trial wasn't to decode ancient text, he said softly. It was to see if we deserved to add to it. 6. After the trial weeks later, the retrieval team opened the vault. They found Kieran standing at its center, alive but changed. His skin bore faint lines of luminous script. The air shimmered with a serene hum. When they questioned him, he answered calmly, but every word seemed to resonate beyond hearing. His notes, thousands of pages of interwoven glyphs, became the foundation for a new field of study: neural semiotics. Some scientists claimed that reading his script caused moments of clarity, even visions of distant worlds. Others warned that the text was still evolving. Years passed. The vault was sealed again, but sometimes researchers reported hearing whispers when they approached the site, questions spoken in the same ancient tone. Will you write in the original font or improved? The phrase became a saying among linguists, philosophers, even artists, shorthand for the eternal debate between preservation and progress. As for Kieran Holt, no one ever saw him age. Some claimed he'd merged with the archive itself, his consciousness traveling across galaxies of living language. Others believed he'd simply found peace in the balance he'd created. But on rare nights, if you stood near the vault of glyphs and listened closely, you might hear the faint scratching of a pen and the echo of a human voice murmuring, "Every language begins again."